Hi, Rudy. Rudy de Buscher is the right pronunciation, right?
Well, it is a difficult pronunciation, so I'm used to any kind of pronunciation. But yeah, it's more or less okay. It's de Busser, but
De Busser? De
yeah,
Busser?
yeah,
Rudy de
the,
Busser?
yeah.
It's perfect now or
That's
almost?
yeah, almost perfect. It's good.
Say it again. Rudy?
De Busser.
Rudy de Busser.
That's good.
Perfect.
Nice, nice.
What was your first computer?
Oh, that was. I think it was the end of the 80s. It was. I forgot the name. It was one of those small things that you needed to boot up with a floppy disk at that time, change it to upload your program like your word processor, and then change again the floppy. So it was it
But
was
but wait,
nice.
you had PC. This was already a PC. So if you have floppy disk, so word processor, so it was not like Commodore or Atari or something like that.
No, it was not one of those, but it was sorry, I forgot the name because it's already so long ago. But no, it was a real PC. It was Windows
Okay.
3.1, I guess.
So then it does
Or
matter
some,
because real PC this was some generic brand, doesn't matter. Before that it was more
yeah,
interesting because it was static spectrum or there would be more interesting discussion. And then there were just PCs. Okay, so you got the computer pretty late, right?
yeah. It was something. I was 18, 19 at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was. I was not one of the first persons who bought a computer. I was not. I was interested in all those kind of things, but it was not my first choice. So it was not
What was your
my
first choice then? So what you did,
my.
until 18?
Well, actually, I'm not even a computer developer or engineer or whatever. I'm an agriculture engineer. So
Ah,
I'm interested in plants and animals and genetics and all those kind of things. Besides of computers these days, of course. But I did my studies was not even computer related.
yeah, but until 18, so you were not interested in plants and genetics, I guess, right? So from 0 to 18, what was your passion until you got your first computer?
Ants and animals and
Oh, really?
things.
Really?
Yeah,
Ah,
yeah.
okay, interesting. That's interesting. So it's like a natural passion. So, and what it meant? So you just read books about plants, or what you can do with it?
Yeah, we lived at the countryside, so I had a little garden. I planted a few things. I even experimented with strawberries, things like that. I made cross pollination between a few
Ah,
things, etc. So I was really into that, and
so you created the early monsters, the early plant monsters.
yes,
So like
yes,
strawberry.
and zombies and
Yeah, yeah.
afterwards.
Oh, zombies, exactly. Okay, so then you got the computer. So you use it for games, or what was the first thing you did with the computer?
Yeah, it was of course games. Like I guess every teenage boy or beginning of the 20s was playing games. But I was also interested in other things like
What games? Which plant-related games? Is it something like
pla
this?
yeah, plant-related games. I remember one game. It was about a farm, and you needed to grow all your crops and vegetables and sell them on the market and things like that. So
Oh,
some kind of simulation games, etc.
right now there is a farming simulator. You know that?
No, I'm not really into games anymore, so
No,
I'm
you have
not
to look it up.
following.
It's called Farming Simulator, and
Okay,
and it simulates everything. From tractors to crops. So the entire. And this is actually a nice game.
yeah, I will
I never
definitely
played it,
have
but
a
I
look.
but I watched it a couple of times. So farming simulators, I think you will like it.
Yeah, I will
And the cool
look at
story
it.
is it is extendable, so you can yeah, there is an SDK for it. Then you could
Oh,
yeah.
okay,
So
okay, nice.
interesting. So okay, so you started to play games with your computer early 20s, and then you immediately started to program, or what is the transition?
Well, yeah, For instance, during my education, we were doing statistic and all kind of things, and I wanted to play around a bit with statistic calculation. So I think one of my first things that I created was a program or a tryout of a program that do some statistic calculations on values, classification algorithms to see if you have. Because at that time I was still I was in the agriculture education for see if you measure from a tomato, for instance, at the color and the size and the shape, how can you classify that and into different quality categories and things like that. So I try to write some programs around that and do some things. Of course, it's a bit silly afterwards if you think about it, because you as a single developer trying to create something rather complex like that, if there are some big companies spending a lot of people and time and money on it to create such a thing. But anyway, it was a good learning experience and fun thing.
Now we have different opinion. So what I watch is there's lots of great stuff was created by small teams and single developers,
Yeah, of course. But at that time I was thinking, oh yeah, this could be nice and we can use it at university. I think so. It is indeed maybe good starting, but my idea of it was a bit too high.
What do you wanted to achieve with this program? What it did as it?
Just doing automation, just improve things that we have on whatever scale. Because as I said, I was interested in plants. I was interested in, we do, for instance, at that time, a lot of the quality checks were manual. So a lot of people check by hand what the quality of the tomatoes was, category 1 to 4 or whatever. And I was thinking, well, if we can automate that, then it would be nice. And you hear then a few tutorials at that time already that there are machines that do computer vision, and based on that they do all kind of stuff. So that inspired me to do something similar, but for something else at that time for tomatoes.
Yeah, for tomatoes. But what it meant is that you try, to get a picture from tomato and recognize from the picture how the tomato is, this what were your idea?
Yeah, that was my idea. So I extracted.
This is really challenging, I would say, back then.
Well, no, not really. For instance, I took the picture. I extracted the border at the edge of the tomato. I did a Fourier transformation to see if it was perfectly round or that there were some bumps and things like that. Based on the color, I checked if it was green, yellow, or red, and those things. So it looks challenging, but in fact, it is quite easy to do.
Yeah, I mean, if you say, okay, we just have to apply some Fourier transformation, and it's still easy to do, it is already, It sounds interesting. Which programming language you used back then?
I started to use Pascal. That was my first language. I did a bit of Visual Basic, but then I did a lot of things in Pascal.
And you started immediately with this system, or you did some, Hello Worlds before, or what was your transition from a Fourier transformation on tomatoes to, between Fourier transformation tomatoes and Hello World?
I just, as I said, I tried to do some automation, and I think that was at that time we had a program laying around, had to install Pascal, and then I learned it by myself a bit, and then it was I just rolled into that, and I found it easy in a certain sense. It was logical. I'm a very logical person, I guess. So it all seems natural to think in loops, in if-then statements, in methods, in whatever.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so got it. And when was it roughly? Was the software when you wrote it?
It was in 96, I think I wrote it.
Okay, not bad. And what was the name of the program? I imagine Tomatotron or something like this, right?
I don't think it
Tomato
has a name.
to Tomato 2000 or Tomato Vision or something. Okay, so what you did afterwards? So I can imagine you spent 1 year for this program, or
Yeah, it was 1 or 2 years then, and then then it's everyone talked about the year 2000 problem at the time, that the world would end because there were only two digits for years instead of four. So there was a great amount, a great request for developers, etc. And then I was thinking, well, I like doing this, so why not try to be a developer? And so I joined a consultancy firm, which gave me a nice training, about 4 months, so that I can be a proper developer. And then I rolled into the software industry.
What you learned during the training in 4 months?
It was Oracle Forms, Oracle Reports.
Also did it. As a Forms, a little bit. Forms is, it was like, there were the boxes with some bindings and you could create, okay. And it is completely different. So it's more from Pascal to Oracle's completely different story, right?
Different story. It's what's called 4G language. You define the layout and you write a few snippets behind it, behind a button, etc. Pascal, of course, is just basically general purpose program. You need to write everything, but you have, of course, much more freedom to do what you like because you're not restricted to what the program offers you.
And you enjoyed the experience?
For a while. I saw it that it has good, it had good parts in it, in the sense that you can do some things quickly. The downside is that you are restricted to what the framework offers you. So if you want to do something, if you say, "Oh, I have something in my mind that I want to do," then it's not possible. So that was a bit restrictive, and I think that was in 2000 and 2005. Then I switched to Java services because and Java at the time, because I was thinking, well, that gives you an almost unlimited capability of what you want to do on the user side, on the view side. You are in control of the GUI. You can define what needs to be done. So that's gives you a bit more work, of course, but the entire freedom of what you like to do.
This is true, and this is also natural progression or transition, right? From Oracle Forms to JSF, they are not that different.
There are much similarities, of course. Like you have those events if you click on buttons, etc. So yes, there are some similarities which make the switch probably easier to do. Yes.
Which server you used back then? You remember that?
That was the WebLogic server.
Which version?
Don't remember. I only remember that the first time I need to install it, I needed to download it from the internet, and then the operations of the company phoned me up, said, "What are you doing? You're downloading such a big, huge thing. Stop it! We have issues on the network." And then after a while, I managed to download it and then install it, and it took me about a day or something at that time. Probably because I was not experienced enough in it, but it's perceived as huge and difficult and all kind of things.
Okay, then it was not my WebLogic, because I also did lots of WebLogic, and I really enjoyed that, because I think it was after 8, because WebLogic before 8 or until 8 was actually very easy to install. So I did it regularly. It was like, I don't know, at most half an hour, just click and it just installed, and it started fast, and it was actually really small. And then they expanded with the enterprise feature, and then it was harder and harder,
I think it was
manage.
I think it was at that
10,
point.
10. Yeah, the 10 was
probably 10. Yeah,
from 10 I didn't use WebLogic anymore. So I think 9 was my last project, and then we transitioned to Glassfish, basically. Back then, Glassfish was open source with support from Sun, and then all my WebLogic projects became actually Glassfish projects. So, Whitefly or JBoss back then, JBoss, there was no Whitefly. there was no competition because JBoss didn't have a proper admin console. So it was like, it was you had to use the XML to configure JBoss. That there was a kind of a console, but it was more like JMX, how to call it, rendered JMX beans. So it was very low level, so you could invoke the methods, but it was more like remote procedure call to JMX. And the Glassfish came out, the very first version, and the admin console was very usable. And there was monitoring from the beginning. So this is how I convinced my clients, or convinced, there was nothing to convince, it was obvious choice. Yep. And then a lots of projects became Glassfish projects. And back then, the Glassfish, the unique story was that it is the reference implementation, it's open source, but you can buy support. And this was, the killer argument, because, okay, you can just download it, go it, and you can just buy support from the same bits. And yeah, this was this is why I asked, which version it was to see what I did at the time frame to have a better impression. Okay. Interesting. So you spent some time with WebLogic in GSF, and I assume you didn't like the experience because you already mentioned, 1 year installation. 1 year,
yeah,
1 day,
one day,
which feels like 1 year, right?
Yes, indeed. Yeah, no, it was not a pleasant experience. So then I switched over to I think Tomcat at that point. So it's Tomcat where you then have to add things. So I was a bit out of Java EE world then, but I used Tomcat and with the Java server faces with Hibernate. So a bit of putting everything together yourself because.
How long you spent to putting everything together? Longer than a day, I guess, right?
Afterwards, realizing those things, yes, it is more difficult to combine everything again over and over for each customer, for each project again, than just using everything available. But at that time, again, it felt like that you are in control of it, that you have, that you are doing the things and that you are assembling the things that you need. But at the end, you spend more time indeed than just taking something which is already prepared for you and everything available.
And the worst of all is you are creating a unique snowflake. The problem, because for every client you use different versions, and if something breaks, you have a different combination for every client. This is what the best of breed and combination of stuff. So for me, it never made any sense. So I just ask you to hear your opinion, because except you are Netflix, they say, okay, this is really, we have micro optimize everything, because a small gain or small optimization results in a huge gain. But in my project is like, a small optimization results in nothing. So nothing measurable. So it really does matter. So I think developer experience is more important, and simplicity.
Yes. And
you recognized this back then or now? Or is this a reflection right now? Or
it's more reflection now. At that time, it was more that you are in control and that you are doing the best thing. But again, indeed, and if you then if you take over a project from someone else who did it in a slightly different way, you're a bit lost or at the first moment lost, because you have to investigate how is he doing this, why he's doing, did he make those combinations, etc. And then afterwards, now again, because I guess the experience, the wisdom comes with age. It was not the best thing to do, but at that time, it was. It was a nice thing that you are in control, that you can do the things that you want to do, that you like.
Okay, interesting. So, and then what happened then?
More and more taking up everything around Java EE at that time. Also using Glassfish, Wildfly when it came available. So more and more coming into the exactly the Java enterprise world. And I think it was 4 years ago, a bit. The consultancy thing was a bit becoming boring in the sense that most of the time you also need to do the same things over and over for each customer. Some customers are just asking actually to validate their ID and their opinion. So the creativity, etc., became less and less challenging. So I wanted to do something else. It was around 4 years ago. So I switched.
So I didn't knew that. So until 4 years ago was 2000 and what 17?
Yes.
So until 2017, you were Java EE consultant. Yeah.
That's correct. Yeah.
So you spent your time exclusively with Java EE, with Glassfish, Whitefly, and all the products?
Yes, I developed, I think, indeed around 12 to 13 years, always Java EE applications.
And this was your choice doing that?
Yeah, because as I said, I like the way, especially from the beginning with Java services, what you couldn't do. Of course, it has also its limitations, but I liked those things, and I evolved in it, and I took more and more the EGB side afterwards, the successor part of the specifications, etc. So yeah, I was around, I think until 2018, I was doing 2 or 3 projects each year around Java EE.
What were the most interesting or projects? So what was the areas?
Integration in the laboratory, and integration of the analysis. So there was from blood samples which were sent in, connection to all the machines, to all the analysis machines, getting back the results and assembling them and creating a report, etc. That was a nice thing. So that was because it was not only Java EE, just a administration console, but also in interaction low level with those machines. That was a nice one.
So you built a JCA connector, or how you interacted? You remember that?
Yes, it was a JCA connector that I created specifically for that one. What else? My memory is failing a bit, and all those things were a bit the same. Various administrative applications, of course. Nothing specific to mention, I guess. So
what happened in 2017?
As I said, I wanted to do something else, and so I was looking to still be involved in something to do with Java EE, of course, because that was my thing with Java. So I wanted to do something else, and then I had the opportunity to start at Payara.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking, well, also, and I don't blame those people, because a lot of customers also work with Spring and Spring Framework, and that's absolutely fine. But I wanted to do 100%. I spent 100% my time with Java EE. So
why?
I was thinking, because I believe that you can do a lot, but you can only be an expert in one thing.
Yeah.
So I was already spending something like 10, 12 years, and I enjoyed it a lot with Java EE. So I was thinking, I'm not going to learn anything else now. Not because I don't want to, but why change if you are happy with what you're doing, what you're using? So instead of maybe be forced into something else, which is also a valuable thing, why not try to focus on something 100% of what you like to do, is by joining a company that's 100% focused on Java EE.
Yeah, perfect. No, a good explanation, because I was curious now about the choice, because I'm similar. So I started earlier than you with Java EE, and why I started with Java EE is because I was consultant and I couldn't understand all the different runtimes. There were just too many servers and runtimes back then, and Java EE was like light at the end of the tunnel. I said, okay, I will try to understand this, and then I will understand all the runtimes. Because before Java EE, there was too many completely incompatible servers and runtimes and frameworks. This was just crazy times, and this was happy choice, and it worked as you said. Also, I think even I started in 2000, so even longer than you, but still happy. So with the choice, and this was the great choice, because I never had to tell my clients, now we have to migrate to something completely different. And they are also happy because we only had to change the system in case the business logic changed, and never because the framework was no more is out of fashion. And this was perfect for me because I didn't have to relearn anything. I just incrementally learned new stuff. And clients really like it. So I have some clients, I know them from 10, 20 years, and they are still happy. And they ignored all the trends. And this is the funny thing. So it is sometimes not that bad, to ignore trends because they come and go. This is the and the plumbing actually remains is the thing.
A lot of hypes, and there are good points about hypes, or any hype highlights indeed perfectly valid points, but it does not is enough to switch completely to that new framework. You need to, for instance, to incorporate the good parts of what they highlight in the way how you're working in your framework, and that's most of the time perfectly possible.
Yeah, and this is how hype happened, right? Usually, imagine what you could do. You go to conferences and talk about your JCA connector, which talks to laboratory machines, and if you sell it right, and it seems logical, then all developers from that talk will come back and try to implement JCA connectors for their machines, but they don't have any machines. So this is the problem. What I see, Netflix and the others back then, they occupied all the conferences and talked about stuff problems which no one had. Usually, this is. So I would say you have to know. To try to understand whether the solution is actually a solution to your problem or just solution to their problem. This is what should happen before you follow a trend. One question, because you also spoke at conferences before 2017, right?
That's correct.
Because I know your name for a long time, I know you longer, and I never knew that you are actually a freelancer or consultant. So you are a freelancer?
Yes, as of 2019, I'm a freelancer. Yes,
that's actually interesting. So we were very, very similar, actually.
And because that was something, and it was something that I like to do, and it was not always possible for my employer at that time. So most of those conferences I did in my free time. So
yeah,
I took holiday to go to a conference and talk to the people there.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you are a freelancer. This is your holiday, right?
No, but at that time I was still an employee of a consultancy firm before 2017.
And now you are freelancer, or before? You never was freelancer.
I'm now a freelancer. So yes.
Okay, now you have.
But before not, I was an employee before 2018.
Okay, and can you which company was it?
It's a consultancy firm in Belgium. It's geared. It is only for the Belgian market, so probably no one outside Belgium knows it, but it's not important, I guess.
Oh, okay, because I would associate your name with the company somehow. Okay, interesting. So what you did at Payara?
The first 2 years almost, I was in the service team. So I helped customers who had questions around how to implement something, a certain feature. If they had some issues with a certain feature, if there was a major issue with the runtime, if there was a log, if there was a major problem with the environment, and I helped them, etc. So it was something nice to do. It was hands-on. It was always a different issue, always different environment. So I learned a lot at that time.
What industries? So all over the place, or
all over the place? Manufacturing, banking, insurance. As I guess with any Jakarta runtime now. It can be used in any kind of industry. It is just a general.
What was the most challenging technical question you got back then?
There are many challenging things. I guess several things around operational things, because I'm a developer and I'm not a operational guy around scripting and all kind of things, those kind of things. So that was something that I had to learn. Other challenging things was that people wanted to integrate all kinds of frameworks with Java EE, which is also sometimes a big challenge because sometimes they are not designed for that. So, but the customer want to use it, so we help them with those questions, of course. And many challenges. I think I had a challenge every few weeks, which was saying, "Oh, this is now something that I interesting, but difficult." And but at the end, you learn a lot around those things.
Mm-hmm. Okay, got it. So and then what happened then? So you moved from, is this like Payara a huge company like, you know, Apple? So there are many departments, departments, and you move from department to department, or now you have different bosses, or what's your
It's not a huge company. We have, of course, different departments. We have the classic development teams. We have the service teams, sales, marketing, etc. But another thing that I always like to do in the past was that I was also coaching people, and so I learned to explain things. Apparently, I learned to explain technical things in an easy way. So it was useful also for sales and marketing. I was already writing blogs and going to conferences, etc. But then there was the question, why don't you focus more on that? And so that's why since now 6 months, I became, but what's in the title, a technical sales and developer advocate person, helping sales, the sales team and the marketing team with all technical questions. Because the world doesn't stop, and there are many technical terms and things change, and it's not always easy for sales and marketing to keep up with all those names and trends and what it actually means, and is it important or not. So I'm doing those things now. So I'm at calls with prospects, with customers, to tell about how Payara works, general ideas you use cases. If they have specific technical questions, I can answer them, and those kind of things.
Okay. What happens in Payara, if you can? So I mean, this is developed. So there's Payara implements MicroProfile 4 already, which is remarkable. So the MicroProfile 4 implementation of Payara, it is all implemented by the Payara team, or you have parts from Smallrye, or is how to call it? Could we use, for instance, parts of the parts of the Payara's MicroProfile implementation outside Payara? So how because this is like we have different MicroProfile implementations, and Payara is one of them. So the question is how it is integrated and yeah.
Well, indeed, we decided that we implement all the MicroProfile specifications ourselves. We are not using Smallrye or any other kind of implementation, just for the fact that all those other implementations, they are just based on the standards. It's by MicroProfile, it's based on standards like CDI and those things. So it can be used in any environment that's supported. But we decided to implement all of them from scratch, not using any of those implementations available, so that we can integrate it really well within the Payara core itself. So that it is, in the sense, integrated. So it is better performing. We can use features from within Payara itself in those things. Like, for instance, we have integrated in the open tracing, we have integrated the remote EGP call tracing within the MicroProfile open tracing. We have integrated for MicroProfile config all the configuration options of Payara itself in MicroProfile config, etc. So by implementing all those features, all those specifications ourselves, we can do much more than just follow the spec and implement the spec.
What I had already chat with the Open Liberty people, and was also interested whether they use Smallrye everywhere. And they said, okay, it is sometimes challenging because if you have internal threading or executor service, and the integration with an external MicroProfile implementation can be challenging. So even the Open Liberty, which is basically Red Hat, or this is somehow closely related to Red Hat, they also have their own implementations. I was curious what's the idea here. So what also interests me is I try to use as I try to rely on Jakarta and MicroProfile only for business logic, but the service offers more than the standard. So what are the most interesting, or not only interesting, most popular or useful features from Payara? So outside the spec. So you already mentioned, we can trace remote EGB scores. I would say probably interesting for legacy project, but the new project is less interesting. So what are, maybe the first question is, what are the most popular proprietary Payara's feature? So the popularity, most used.
That's then not really something developer related. It's about monitoring.
Exactly.
So we have a elaborated monitoring service which follow-ups on queues, connection pools, and all kind of things, and can report on various channels if there are issues. We have our monitoring console. It's called Payara Insight. That gives you the dashboard to follow up on the performance of your entire system. So the server, but also your application itself. You can export that to external tools. You can export it to a Prometheus database, all those metrics. So that is probably the most important thing that we provide next to the standard Jakarta EE and MicroProfiles.
Yeah, but this is not even, there is nothing in standard except MicroProfile matrix and fault tolerance somehow. So and the Payara Insight is a nice dashboard. So because in matrix you get just the Prometheus or JSON format, and you have nicer dashboard. What you also see is would you see, for instance, let's say I get lots of requests, but the thread pool does not have enough threads. So what I should see is that the queue becomes full, the incoming HTTP request queue. And what happens inside the server? I guess this will be exactly the use case for your Payara Insights dashboard, right?
You can indeed follow up on the queue usage. So you can get a notification, for instance, if the all the workers in the queue are used, and that you have a few things in the parked, so waiting until a worker becomes free. That is some of the use cases that you can do with Payara.
And which features are very useful but lesser known and not that popular? Popular means customers don't use them, or so they should.
It's always a difficult thing to know what people are not using, because it's, if you don't get any feedback, is it because it works perfectly, or is it because
but you see,
using it? So,
but you saw or see systems in production, though. So, for instance, I can tell you to give you some ideas from the code perspective. I performed some code reviews. What is used, not that I would say wisely, are metrics, for instance. Stuff which is obvious is metered like hell, and stuff which is useful, there are no metrics because there's no one interested. For instance, they're applied wrongly, or fault tolerance. Everyone wanted to have the circuit breakers or whatever. Now we have them, and now they are not that used. And sometimes I'm really happy if they have timeouts specified. But I don't know, 5 years ago, everyone said Java is not usable in microservices because there is no Hystrix, or Netflix has Hystrix, and what happens? Hystrix died. Now we have everything in MicroProfile, and it's just complete silence. It's okay now. Yeah, and this is, for instance, what I can tell you from my perspective is outside Payara is just Java EE and MicroProfile perspective. So just something similar to Payara. What I remember, we had a conversation at Devox, and what I wanted to have is what you actually implemented is what you can specify, which is crazy. So Payara comes with the AMX or JMX monitoring beans where you can expose. And what you did is you can tell Payara this bean, as the content of this bean should appear as MicroProfile metric. This is very useful.
Because as I mentioned, we have all that tight integration between all those components. We can do that quite easily. In the sense, easily, we know that the XML to define that possibility is a bit of a tedious work, which we will tackle in the future. But yes, and indeed, as you say, what is maybe underused, people, and probably understandable, a lot of developers and product owners and whatever are only focused in pure functionality for the end user.
Exactly.
And they are not really that interested in, I should say, metrics of fault tolerance stability, because that are edge cases which are not the happy case. So
yeah,
in general, people are a bit too focused on the happy case.
Yeah. Now, you remember 7 years ago, the hysteria of microservices, everyone was only interested about the patterns. Circuit breakers, every session I know, what about circuit breakers? It's okay, if you need a circuit breaker or timeout, I create an interceptor and this is solved, right? Yeah, but this is, and now we have it. And so, okay, this is fun, you know. Okay, and certificate management is painful, and it is not part of the spec. No, not really, right? So there's not specified in which format there's only specified that there is encryption. So, and is there something special where Payara can help you with certificates? And what I would think about is, for instance, let's encrypt integration. You could easily do this. I fiddled with that, you know, the recent years and months on different servers and clouds. So this could be also an interesting part, right?
Well, we have a lot of things available for that. For instance, you mentioned that Let's Encrypt.
You are the salesman. You have to tell me, you know.
Well, we have those available. That's what I say. We have in the community and enterprise version, we have a script already available for Let's Encrypt. So you can just run it, and it will get you the certificate, and then you can use it. Related to that, certificate management itself, it is tedious. You have all those formats and all those kind of things. But we have, for the enterprise users, we have a tool set to handle those things. So you can just launch a command and it installs that specific certificate within the Payara server, makes all the configuration changes for you. So it is just one single line now with Payara.
Okay. This actually would be a huge added value. And even though in your dashboard, if you see, okay, this certificate will expire, but it is going to be renewed by Let's Encrypt automatically, so I have more control over that. And what I think what is coming, if you could encrypt all the communication between the microservices with a certificate as well, this would be also in one point of time interesting. Of course, this is a developer will have to do this, but at least, this is, yeah. But you're right. If there's on the other side, there's Payara server with certificate. We already have it. We only have, to be able to roll out the certificates across all Payaras.
And then if you are using HTTPS with a certain certificate, then all the data will be encrypted, as you mentioned.
At the beginning, I was a little bit confused about Payara's passion regarding Hazelcast integration and state sharing. But I think with your recent announcement, I understand it a little bit better. So what was actually the main driver for Grid in Payara?
The actual case was that clustering within in Glassfish, and also so in Payara 4 then, because that's mainly based on the Glassfish code, was done by a project called Shoal, which is nice, but it has limitations for clustering. So in Payara 5, we redesigned the clustering from the ground up. Mm-hmm. And we are now using that Hazelcast as a clustering tool. So in the sense that Hazelcast is, you can use it very easily to connect several instances together, so that you can exchange data, so that you can push events from one JVM to another JVM. So but then became obvious that it was a good candidate to build our entire clustering functionality on top of that. As addition, you have of course the possibility to use that as a JCache implementation, that you can store all those, that you can distribute it. So that means that we use it also for HTTP session replication and all those things. So for us, it was the natural replacement of the old deprecated Shoal framework.
Mm-hmm. One killer use case would be, this one of the most common questions is timers, schedule. are you able on Payara Enterprise or Payara Community to synchronize the timers using Hazelcast? Because usually what I remember is there was a script where you can create a table and all the timers were stored in a table. Now, for me, it would be natural to be able to replicate the state of the timers using Hazelcast.
With EGB timers, persistent EGB timers, then because then you need to store them somewhere. You have two options: either you use a database, as you mentioned, where you have information stored in a database table, or you can use Hazelcast. There is one little downside if you use it in Hazelcast, unless you activate persistence within Hazelcast, is that when your entire cluster dies or stops, then you lose that information, of course. But other than that, yes, EGB timers persistent EGB timers can be used with that Hazelcast implementation. You just need to specify it in the configuration where needs my EGB timer configuration needs to be stored in the database or the Hazelcast, the data grid as we call it.
Exactly. But this, I could imagine, this is one of such features which are underused, because I get the question all the time. So in the recent AHEX TV, I get the question again. It was not Glassfish, Payara, it was Whitefly. But the persistent timers, in clouds, how to deal with them.
EGB timers in general, and I think it's because EGBs are not popular, but EGB timers in general are underused.
Mm-hmm. Can we have a brief chat about Payara Cloud, or is it too early?
Can have, of course, a brief chat about Payara Cloud. It's our new project that we are launching with the philosophy also behind that. You should be able to deploy your application on any kind of infrastructure, from small IoT type devices like Raspberry Pis until over bare metals, virtual machines, clouds, Docker, Kubernetes, and then Payara Cloud is one of those options. Why Payara Cloud? Because we see a lot of people struggle with Docker and Kubernetes. It is a framework with a lot of functionality, a lot of features. But of course, you need to learn all of those things. And that can be challenging, especially for smaller teams, for smaller companies. It seems easy in the beginning. You have to just create one YAML file. That YAML file can maybe sometimes challenging to do already, but just one YAML file and you are ready to go. But at the end, there are a lot of things that you need to take into consideration. So the idea of Payara Cloud is that, again, just as with your application server, like Payara itself, you just have a GUI. You take your WAR file, you upload it, and it runs in the cloud. Mm-hmm. Done with it. Behind the scenes, it takes all those complexity of creating those Kubernetes services, assigning the routing from the outside world to your instance, to take the scaling, to assign certificate, as you mentioned before, those to have secure access to your application. All those things are done for you behind the scenes. You don't need to worry about them. It's done. Just upload your file. One click on a GUI and your application is up and running in a cloud environment.
I hope not only one click. You could also use REST to upload the file, right? Is there API?
Yes, that's Payara Cloud is still a work in progress. Yeah. So we have done now the first things, which is a one click in the GUI. But yes, there will be a REST endpoint in the future to have some command line integration, etc.
Then I give you a hint. What you should do from the beginning: create a Terraform resource for it. This is what Terraform is. This is infrastructure as code, IAC, and all major cloud providers have it. If you have an API, so you could just say, the application, I need this application with these resources, and it will talk to you via REST to your Payara Cloud, and this simplifies things a lot. This is used also a lot. What you said right now, so for me, it sounds like what you did is you created like OpenShift written in Java, right? Because what you said, you are using Kubernetes behind the scenes, And Payara is the orchestrator. So Payara is pulls the strings behind this.
Correct. It's technically speaking, Payara Cloud is a Kubernetes operator, which has also front end and so can also do all the interaction with all the Kubernetes and resources and talk to the actual cloud environment as like to set up those routing rules for you.
Mm-hmm. What I don't know whether you're aware of Quarkus. This is a Quarkus is a of course you're aware. This is like a runtime. And as if I saw that, I was delighted. I say this is the next generation, because what they are doing is they say, okay, there is only in a microservice environment. So we had always one Payara, one war. If there's only one-to-one relation, you can optimize everything at build time. So interestingly, what you are saying right now, what this reminds me, I always ask myself, why Sun and Oracle never considered the war as a deployment cloud unit. So what you could actually do, consider the servers as serverless. You say, I don't care about the servers. I have my war. I push it to the cloud and it should just work. So I always must, and what you did with Payara Cloud, I'm excited again, because now you said, okay, shared deployments are actually great if they are isolated and you don't have to care, right? It's not really shared. You do something behind the scenes, they are actually distributed. But you are using, the best of Java EE apply to cloud, because for me always, you probably know, the EJB programming restrictions and the entire philosophy around Java EE, it was always cloud ready, because we always had the clusters and we never could rely where you're running. There were restrictions regarding environment. We should never read from local file system. So if a proper Java EE developer was actually always cloud native developer, because this was, for me, it's really no difference. I mean, for Docker it's easy. I never did, crazy things with the operating system because we always ran in a cluster. So now, this is why I like actually Payara Cloud. I found this per accident on a website, and I say, if this looks what I mean, this is actually crazy, because we have now Helidon, Quarkus, all the new next generation runtimes which focus on complete different stuff, like no single microservice deployment. And now we get application servers back with Payara Cloud, where we just pick the availability of, we have a war, which is completely separated from the infrastructure. The infrastructure is in the cloud. I push the war to the cloud and I decide whether it gets distributed or not. And this could be Kubernetes or not Kubernetes. I mean, now you're using Kubernetes, but you could also use something else easily. And the question, what are you doing behind the scenes? You are spinning a Payara instance per war, or you also allow shared deployments, or can I configure this, or what happens?
For the moment, it is indeed spinning up a Payara micro instance, so it is web profile only, because that makes probably only sense in a real cloud environment, that you have only that web profile. So it spins up a Payara micro instance for each WAR file that you deploy.
Web profile with MicroProfile, right?
Profile with micro, yes. Payara Micro supports the Jakarta web profile, including the MicroProfile specifications, plus a few specifications like concurrency, PMS client, so you still can talk to a Kafka instance from Payara Micro, and Batch. JBatch is also a part of Payara Micro.
This is more than enough. So for cloud environment, I would say yes. MicroProfile is already fine, because I was a little bit concerned with web profile, because not enough, but web profile plus MicroProfile is fine. I think this is absolutely sufficient. And I mean, the others, the Helidons and Micronodes, they also support even less. I mean, they have parts of MicroProfile or complete MicroProfile, and they don't support EGBs. Helidon, I think, don't even supports servlets, I guess. So this
correct. Because it's MicroProfile actually does not support servlets. But that is our philosophy with Payara, that we are. It's our tagline, dedicated to Jakarta EE, that you can do all those kind of things like cloud, or just that WAR file, deploying it with all the things that with Jakarta. You don't need to learn a new framework. You don't need to use specific idioms to make it work, like in Quarkus, for instance, to have that native compilation possible, etc. That they are good, but there are other ways to start up to have a faster startup. Just use what you know best, Jakarta EE, and you use it at any environment.
Yeah, but I mean, Quarkus is great. I use it a lot, but this is different use case. This is what I like to know. With your Payara Cloud, you are not competing with Quarkus because what are you providing? Like Quarkus is just one. Payara Micro competes with Quarkus.
Correct. And even that, if what I'm reading is that Quarkus is mainly focused on that native compilation and fast startup, which makes it more or less geared towards serverless and not to general application development.
No, the Quarkus is also very fine for general application development, but it doesn't matter. So we have, great runtimes, and this Payara Cloud is complete different beast. This is what interests me for the operator part, because what you are doing, you are starting per Payara Micro a pod, right?
Correct.
So, and you are distributing all the certificates, which is really painful. So the question is, how I get the Kubernetes? Can I go to Azure or AWS and just say I have AKS or EKS, or is it hosted by Payara?
The moment it is hosted by Payara. It is running on the Microsoft Azure platform, but future versions will be running on any kind of Kubernetes platform. So that means also Amazon. That means your private cloud, which is running a Kubernetes installation. Because it is just a Kubernetes operator. Of course, we need to define some integration points then at that point, because as you mentioned, we have that integration with the certificate, with the routing that's provided by the cloud provider. So we need those integration points then all implemented, which is for the moment only done for the Microsoft Azure platform.
Mm-hmm. This is actually really interesting, and startup time actually doesn't matter in this particular case, because the entire pod will start with Payara Micro. And whether the Payara Micro starts 1 second faster or not, no one cares. This is the point. It's already fast enough, This is what I meant. There's no competition between you and the other frameworks, because the startup time is somehow relevant, but Payara Micro is already fast enough. It's not like it starts in no minutes. So it is like 1-2 seconds.
Yes.
And the Kubernetes has to boot as well. And I have some experience with Kubernetes, and the startup time of the servers was never the problem. What the problem was sometimes, the orchestrator tried to find free resources to start the pod, and it took forever. And this is the real problem. It's not Java, I would say. So if you're dealing with Kubernetes, you will see that actually we have different problems. The startup time in Java, right? And so I'm really excited about that. And I would like to invite you or someone else from Payara team, to talk about this a little bit more if the time allows in a few months. And what I can imagine, this is like you will get maybe even some cooperation with AWS, Google, and the others, so you can buy managed Payara in the cloud. So this could happen, and of course you can offer clients Payara as a service through your cloud. So there's different, and you can even sell on-premise Payara, like for secure environments. And I'm really excited because wars are back right now, right? And if you, my dream was always, so I have my environment, my war, and I push a button, the war is created and pushed somewhere, and then it runs. And this is what you created with Payara Cloud. And if we get, the REST interfaces, so the APIs, I think this is the most important thing to have them. You can automate everything with, let's say, Terraform. This is one of the market leaders, I would say. And it's similar to Ansible and the others, but I overtook everyone, actually. So, this is also open source. Now, perfect. Where people can find you on, some links, Payara Fish and these aspects.
Payara Cloud, for instance, is only available for now in beta testing. So we are planning to have a production capable version by the end of the summer. Mm-hmm. But yes, the website can tell you more. So it is you can go to payara.fish, and there you can have various resources around Payara Server, Payara Micro, Payara Cloud, a lot of resources that you can download. We have also a very active blog, so if around technical topics each week, where at least once or twice a week, where we deploy some information. That's blog.payara.fish. A lot of information available there, and that's not only Payara related; it's Java and Jakarta EE related in general. So it's a general usable site, if you ask me.
Rudy, where are you on Twitter? Do you have a Twitter handle?
I'm on Twitter @rdebusser.
Debusser, of course. Perfect. Thank you. It was fun talk with you, and I learned a lot.
Nice.
And I would like to, to welcome you back in a few months, so we don't have to talk about tomatoes anymore. Just focus on the clouds, right?
Yes, correct.
Or maybe you get a project, Fourier transformations of tomatoes on Payara Cloud. This would be the dream project for you, right?
Yes.
Perfect.